Amir before on the dark web that will like kind of do a bit of a string search, but it'll
This is cool. Let's podcast it.
Yeah.
let's do that for the podcast. Okay, I'm ready.
What's the plan, person? Welcome back.
CyberSpace.
Empirical training. Do you know what I mean? So like, they're like empirical training. Welcome back.
Hello and welcome back to the CyberSpace podcast by Empirical Training. It's your host Josh, and I've got the other three Empirical trainers. We got Robbie. Say hello.
Evening.
And Robbie is a cybersecurity consultant, former SOC leader, doing a lot of stuff with setting up a SOC and SIEM services and helping assist with the sales. They're really doing everything. They're really getting their money's worth out of you at the moment, aren't they, Rob?
I'm glorified salesman at this point, but I'm actually enjoying it. But yeah, I'm sitting in between, so doing some SOC consulting and then helping out sales and empowering the sales team as well to ask the right questions, the right qualifying questions, and increase the confidence as well, because that's something that a lot of teams are lacking. A lot of sales teams, they feel that they're not armed with the right information to have the correct conversations with customers, and they think that they need to bring on the technical team sooner than they actually do. So that's the goal. It's fairly tricky, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and that's true in some of the huge organizations as well. There's not enough technically skilled people to kind of have those conversations, and sometimes you get people throwing buzzwords at a wall and seeing what sticks rather than having actual high value conversations. And yeah, we got Vaughan and AJ with us. Vaughan and AJ, if you heard a salesperson kind of talk about security inaccurately, they talked about protection when they were talking about a SOC monitoring tool, blocking. What would you think of that seller?
Well, I mean, they don't know what they're talking about, right? If you're just connecting something that has no way of stepping in and preventing. Obviously, there's SOAR solutions that can do that sort of stuff, but yeah, the lingo definitely gets mixed up sometimes.
It's that detection versus protection versus response and all those. It's a fine line to tread, but that's Vaughan. Vaughan is our AI security specialist, also SOC leader. Say hello, Vaughan, so they get your voice.
Hello, everyone. High praise as an AI specialist, but thanks for listening, and I'm glad to be here.
It's the internet. We can be whatever we want to be. I'm joking.
Yeah, you got to own it soon.
Yeah, Josh, that meme you posted the other day where it said they don't know you're a dog.
No one knows you're a dog on the internet unless you tell them.
Yeah. I do like that, to be fair.
Yeah. And the final person there, you heard him, AJ, Andrew Jones, my dear friend and one of the best incident response consultants that I know. Everyone's getting major big ups today.
Yeah, we're all getting big ups. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Good to be back on the podcast. Nice to... Oh, Day One Dens. Yeah,
he's changed his name as well.
So maybe AJ is a dog on the internet.
Building.
Because he just got some golden Labrador energy there, got distracted. So we're doing this podcast with the chat as we've started doing recently. So this is our school community. That's school.com/cybersec to find us. And we like to record these live to actually get everybody involved in the community into this recording. So you can't hear them, but we will be reading out what they're saying as they kind of guide us along, ask us provocative questions, or just spam buses in the chat.
Yeah, buses. Yeah, if you've gone back to episode 1 of the podcast, you'll know why I still get called a bus driver. Even in the Discord sometimes, there's a bus emojis flying around in there. We don't even do anything in the Discord anymore.
Well, I was driving down the M4 the other day. There's a motorway in the UK for our international listeners, and I saw your father's bus company go past me twice.
Oh yeah, they're doing a lot of trips to London, and that could have been me if I didn't go down the cybersecurity route. I had I passed the theory. I never actually learned to drive a bus, but
right. So shall we? Lots of fun. Shall we put ourselves onto a cybersecurity topic before we? So there's. I think we all spent some time on the cybersecurity news, and there was one that kind of caught my eye this week that I thought was worth a chat about, because it got me thinking about a few kind of questions I like to pose to the group, and it's all about a topic we all love: OSINT, open source intelligence. So where in this case, where security researchers are freely sharing information they have on a threat group. And so anyone want to take the first question I have is, why is it helpful for someone to share what they've discovered on a threat actor group with their techniques and procedures?
I think it's hugely important to other companies who are looking to try and defend against those same techniques, and having that kind of threat intelligence shared across multiple companies or even researchers allows the companies to respond to the attacks a lot quicker. So taking it from kind of the instant response side, that if we've got certain threat details that have come in about certain threat actors, we're going to be reviewing our internal systems to confirm if there is a possibility that those indicators are within our systems, and then be able to respond a lot quicker then. And if we weren't doing that research at that time, then we would probably miss it. But if you can have that collective research, then it can really help.
And so it's that, yes, common enemy. We all got to know about the common enemy because we're all going to face it. We don't. It's like the world was all facing aliens up in space, and we all came together. All our militaries all of a sudden joined forces. A common enemy unites the people. But what could be a reason not to share? Why would you want to hold certain information back or not put out publicly? How could it make it less valuable? Vaughan. Oh wait,
Sorry,
as someone just called you in the chat, Sensei Vaughan, who looks
yeah,
like
I've
Frenchie
completely
from the
missed
boys.
this conversation because I was laughing at the chat, to be honest.
I don't know who Frenchie from the boys is.
Yeah, so if we
Is he the English guy? The guy who's like, "Oi, bruv, you stole my wife."
I think the name gives it away. I think you might be the French one.
I think so. The listeners know what's going on. Before we go back to that question, the chat has popped off, and some of the people have said that Vaughan looks like Frenchie from the boys. So Vaughan he got a bit lost, so he wasn't able.
Yeah,
to
I missed the convo.
Oh, I can see it now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's not a British one.
Can someone share screen and get this picture up of this fella then?
I've got
I need to see it. Like, so whoever's commenting on the Empirical training account, that's coming through as me, but it's not.
I'm a guest. Can I share my screen? I can't.
I used to have a similar buzz cut when I was younger as well, so I probably look more like him then.
Okay, the small little detour they allow, and it should be sharing. And I'll answer my own question while everyone has a little giggle at that. So I would giggle at that too. So yeah, why would it not be a good idea to share the information about threat actors you're actively tracking? Well, you might give away what you're using to track them, what's making the value that you have in actually being able to identify them in your systems or in your customer system, whatever it is you're protecting. So, a good example of kind of middle ground is, or sometimes you might get nudges from government organizations. They tend to have information sharing relationships with lots of the big cybersecurity companies who will share the stuff privately to them, and they will monitor, I won't say everyone's systems. It probably is everyone. I'm sure that they would say it's just their ones in their nation states they have jurisdiction over. They actually will kind of almost tap you on the shoulder sometimes and say, "Hey, we've just seen so and so's in your environment here. We'll share you lists for kind of to share with your security provider or security team to go and find it." But yeah, if you post on the internet, they then can see what people know about them, and they'll just go and reinvent themselves. Right? These are transient indicators of attack, indicators of compromise that can be reimagined, reinvented.
Yeah, and I think as well they can also change their techniques, can't they? So that if you give away that you know their techniques, then they can modify and change it up and have different behaviors.
One of the best examples of that I can think of is 4 things, bringing it back to the humble cybersecurity analyst doing triage. One of the things that is always recommended with tools like VirusTotal is always use the search box and not the upload of the file or the upload of the domain, because by using those features, it actually goes off and scans the domain, which could then trigger off what we're saying, and then the attacker can come in and see, okay, someone's on to me, they're scanning my domain. Whereas if you perform the search, it doesn't actually flag anyway.
Nice. So back to CloudSorcerer is the group that I picked up on this week that seemed to be doing the rounds. It was actually shared by Kaspersky, or formerly, as I used to call them, Kaspersky. I realized they're Russian. Kaspersky makes a lot more sense. And the interesting thing here is that they've just been discovered targeting Russian government entities, and they aren't a money motivated threat actor. So I think I don't know the stat top of my head, it's like 90% of hack groups or hacks are financially motivated because people are trying to make a quick buck. They're trying to extort money or whatever. The espionage ones are a lot more interesting because, who would have an espionage motive? Who wants to kind of sit there quietly snooping on things and just seeing what's happening? Well,
I mean, it's nation state, right? People snooping on other nations, who's actively at war with each other, who's trying to dig out secrets and then use them for their own gain.
Yeah, most likely. I do like the idea that there's some sort of like supervillain somewhere who's not affiliated with the nation state who just kind of does this because they have the power and just curious, or for the greater good. Maybe it's anonymous.
Yeah, true.
There's a Hot Fuzz reference. Yeah, hacktivism. We don't see much hacktivism. Actually, I did a prediction for this year. I said we might see the return of hacktivism with kind of like a lot of just stop oil protesters kind of elevating elections. Yeah, like people might start to think, hey, why are we disrupting sitting on roads when we can disrupt and take down, let's say, big oil companies' websites or whatever. But
give them an idea.
Yeah. No, I'm all for clean energy, clean world. How do I take back that so I don't get tracked by the the big oil companies?
Yeah, FBI, you're watching,
Come at me. Anyway, I want to get into all their techniques. We just simply don't have time. But I want to talk about some of the ones that I thought were really interesting. So the infrastructure they use, the goal for espionage is to exfiltrate data that initially is just kind of basic stuff like host name, time it's been online for, MAC address, kind of basic configurations about the machines. They're kind of in that really early recon stage. There's also looking for kind of databases to exfiltrate stuff, but I think they just want to know what's around, what's going on, so they have a complete profile of who it is, of who the enemy might be, if it gets down to that, and they have to kind of go to cyber war, I guess. But the method that they were using to exfiltrate it was quite interesting. I've seen this before when in my own personal job as a threat hunter, where people are using legitimate cloud resources as their CNC domains and as their exfiltration domains. So they do API requests authenticated to let me get the list up here: Microsoft Graph, Yandex Cloud, and Dropbox Cloud infrastructure. And Jensen, sure you know the answer. Like, why is that effective? Why is that hard to stop?
Say that again. To use what? Cloud infrastructure? I missed that bit.
Yeah, sorry. I chat quick sometimes, don't I? So they're exfiltrating their data to cloud infrastructure, like public cloud infrastructure, by like Dropbox, for example.
Right, yeah. It's usually accessible from corporate networks, isn't it? So it's not always, but it shouldn't be. It's one of the easy routes that you can prevent exfiltration, but often than not, the companies that are integrating with a lot of the cloud services, especially things like Dropbox, to make the employees' lives easier. But it is an easy way to exfiltrate data out of a company as well.
Yeah, I've got a great segue for this as well. There's a project live on the internet from a Mr. Docs called Living Off Trusted Sites. I've also just posted in the chat, but to what you guys are saying with like using legitimate websites for CNC and those sorts of things, there's an exhaustive list of legitimate websites that can be used for nefarious activity, and actually lists what the nefarious activity is associated with it. So that's a really great project to check in on if you want to learn more about legitimate websites that can be manipulated and utilized for some of these more malicious intent.
Oh, that's
nice.
Cool. Lots project.
Yeah, lots project. So Living Off Trusted Site, it's lots, LOTS -project.com.
Oh, cool. Not heard that acronym before, because I hear like living off the land quite a lot. It's kind of similar, I guess.
It's an abbreviation of that. Another.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of aspiring kind of blue teamers in our community, security analysts. And I think one of the takeaways here is if you're investigating something and just because it's going to Dropbox, it's going to Amazon Cloud, those are legitimate things. You might well stop your analysis there, and you might be right that is the limit of it. But I think this just points out that there are scenarios where connecting to legitimate services doesn't necessarily mean that it's not malicious. They can be abused for purposes they weren't intended to. GitHub and Pastebin are another great. So you can also use the host malware, right? And then you can pull a download. Discord uses GitHub, right? It has a connection there, so you could easily hide in amongst that traffic. It's going to kind of blend in, and it's not going to stand out to any anomaly detection pieces, or maybe even EDRs might be fooled by it coming from GitHub because it's just not anomalous activity for what they might be expecting.
It's a really good resource, yeah.
Yeah, one of the websites on there that's been highlighted is actually Twitter, which I thought was pretty interesting. And the description highlights it being able to use it as a CNC server, so you can publish commands public via
Yeah,
Twitter.
I've seen that.
Then you use your CNC or your infected machine to check out a Twitter page, and then the CNC commands are there posted on their Twitter page, and then that's how it receives the CNC commands, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy, isn't it?
I responded to where it wasn't quite that extent, but a compromised Twitter account. But there was, they had persistence in place, and the way that they were allowing them to reconnect to their account. And I think you can have like, I might be butchering it, but Twitter does have kind of like an API that you can use. And like for code sort of thing to run automations, so they were able to stay in their account for that. So it took a bit of time to get them out, but I thought that was quite interesting because I didn't. But the command and control thing, that's wicked, to be fair.
Yeah, there's so many cool different options on there.
There's another thing it can be used for, like, well, this is CNC, but it's like more specific. I think it's called dead drop. I'm just searching the MITRE to make sure that I'm accurate with that. But basically, what it is it looks onto Twitter or whatever public, and then that contains an address for it to actually connect to for the real CNC. So it's kind of like CNC within CNC.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. There's I know we're going a bit of a rabbit hole now, but I think these are so cool. But there's also one for YouTube, using YouTube for phishing. So you can actually hide a phishing URL inside YouTube's redirect URL functionality. So they think they're clicking on a YouTube link, but it actually redirects to a phishing website.
Oh, okay, that's cool. And
it looks like a YouTube link.
Yeah, like it's the YouTube link originally, but it has like a redirect at the end. So unless you're looking at the full URL, maybe you just look at the start. You think you're clicking YouTube, it redirects to a different page, and that can be lined up with like maybe a fake YouTube page or something.
No, yeah, that's URL scan is still one of my favorite analysis tools because I get to use it all the time in daily life, and that shows you where things different resolve to, right? So that initial link might not be the end destination, and it kind of takes you through those steps. I do that often just because I'm paranoid bastard sometimes.
I always do that.
Yeah, same.
And it very rarely. I mean, I'm trying to think. I can't think of a time where it actually wasn't what I thought it was expected it to be in my personal life. Not when I've been an analyst analyzing other stuff, but hey, that's paranoia comes with a job, guys.
Yeah, let's get used to a healthy sense of paranoia is what we call it.
Yeah. Going back to our conversation on internet memes earlier, somebody shared a great one in the school community that was tech enthusiasts. Yeah, my fridge is connected to the Wi-Fi. I can log into my cooker or whatever, and then tech worker. Nothing's connected to the internet, and I have a gun next to my printer if it makes a noise I don't recognize. That might have been Pierre shared that one. The credit to you in the chat, and if I'm wrong, sorry to whoever did share that. Chat sharing some interesting resources of examples of URL directs and for Office 365 and stuff as well. So thank you very much. That's why we love this community. Someone says something, it triggers loads of little knowledge from other people, and we kind of have that kind of group think, which is awesome.
Yes, but I've learned a lot on this call. That's pretty cool.
Always learning. That's why this is a good industry. You're never done.
That's the best thing about it, isn't it? There's always something new, and there's always new techniques, new behaviors, new. Yeah, that is one of the things I love about it. You're always kept on your toes, but at least that's one good thing. You know, you're always going to be in a job until AI takes over and takes over the world, of course.
Yeah,
Vaughan.
Yeah, Vaughan's going to write.
I mean, if my company is successful, we're already trying to automate. Well, I say trying. We're already automating a large part of the SOC analyst. So anyone listening, if you're interested in cybersecurity, get in while you still can.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Luddites history lesson? AJ, you were in the same school as me. We both learned about this, I think.
Yeah, but I wasn't very good at history.
So industrial revolution, machines come into the textiles factories, and all of a sudden we go from the looms where people are threading stuff to machines that do it for them in a fraction of a second. The Luddites were this like group of protesters who went in and smashed it all up because they're taking our jobs. And whenever we talk about AI taking our jobs, it's always what I think about. But that, what really happened? They became the maintainers of those machines. So I get your point, Vaughan, but I also want people to know it's going to free up your opportunities for you to be different, do different tasks. But I think one of your points you make is that entry level is going to shift away.
Yes, indeed. Entry level is going to get a lot harder to get into, and then the roles are going to be, is something I'm talking about in the free community, actually. Shameless plug, but it's going to be more tailored towards the sort of roles such as a threat hunting based role and maybe like a security engineer based role. So the amount of responsibilities of the SOC analyst will decrease, and the amount of responsibilities of a SOC analyst will start to envelop some of those threat hunting and security engineer, maybe vulnerability analyst type responsibilities.
Do you think AI will be able to develop context? Because I think that's the most important thing right now that it is lacking, isn't it? You can have all of the machine learning, AI, user behavior analysis to create these really cool, interesting, corroborated incidents to triage. But at the end of the day, you still need that human context
One thing we're trying to work on at the moment is actually using AI and automation to retrieve that context. So all the data is available in the SIEM or Azure, for example. Like, you've got your whole Entra Active Directory and those sorts of things in there. So getting the AI and automations to say, okay, when you see this user, go off, grab all of its roles, all of it, what groups it is associated with, is it an administrator, come back and then use that in decision making.
Yeah, that's especially what we're looking to do as well, because like you're saying, that the roles that we got into the industry are obviously changing, and the roles that I'm in now compared to where I am 8 years ago, like the analysis maybe slightly the same, but the tasks that I'm doing every day are different. So that's one of the things to take on board, that you're still going to be needed to do with the analysis, but the context can come from the AI. I think some point in the future it will be possible, but the automation is being pushed, and whether that's true AI or whether it's not, the time will tell. But I think, I think the SOC analyst role is getting much better as a role. I think we were always seen as like incident monkeys, that you were just repeating the same task over and over. So I'm quite thankful for a lot of that is coming in, but that's why now is such a good time to get in, because those entry level roles are still there. Even though I don't really like saying entry level for cybersecurity, because it's not really an entry level industry, but there are more entry level roles available.
What do you mean by that? There isn't really an entry level industry. I'm sure people listening will be prick their ears at that.
Because I don't think that cybersecurity, like, you need to know quite a lot to be able to get in. There is not a role that is like, you're not doing just one task usually if you're coming into cybersecurity. There's a lot of expectations on you. So I personally don't think. I think more entry levels are more kind of your IT support, where you're focusing on one role, and then when you're moving up into cybersecurity, you've taken on a lot more responsibility. So I don't necessarily think it's entry level. As what people think entry level is.
It's probably worth noting there are roles that are more catered to people starting their cybersecurity journey, which is things like junior SOC analyst, but those roles in of themselves aren't entry level IT roles in general. They're more experienced IT roles. Like AJ said, you kind of step up from IT support, network engineer into the cybersecurity roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are IT support roles even in cybersecurity companies, right? So that's even a great way to do it, because then you're going to be more exposed to it. But yeah, great points. I just wanted to clarify on that, because I don't want to dishearten people and make them think, oh, maybe this isn't for me. I want to make the career switch. But if you have that relevant experience, then it's your entry into cybersecurity rather than your entry into your career.
That's a good way to say that. The experience that you get from, say, that you're coming from an IT background, which is where we recommend, or at least having the technical skills. Like, you'll know yourself if you're technical. If you don't know how to use a computer, or you're not very confident with tech in general, it's going to take you a lot longer. But if you're coming from an IT background, then you're going to have a lot of transferable skills that are going to help you get in, and that is your ticket into the industry then, which is the entry level bit that you've already done. The entry level, now you're stepping into a new role. And I'm not shitting on IT roles here at all. They're definitely needed. But that's the way that we see it, that it does take a little bit of a step up, and you need that fundamental understanding first.
And just to hit back on the point of the SOC analyst roles as well, before we move on, we mentioned about a lot of that, or I mentioned about part of that being automated. And to the point AJ said, these roles are getting more technical because it's the lower level incidents that have been automated. So the lows and the mediums, that sort of stuff is being more heavily favored towards automation and AI, which is why, like, the more technical, like the malware based incidents and the actual likely legitimate attacks are now being left as the majority of tasks for the SOC analysts. So that's directly contributing to these starting to become more technical roles as well.
Really valuable insights. Cheers, gents. That's we got a bit serious there, but that's what this podcast is all about. We kind of dip through the levity and the fun of cybersecurity, some helpful stuff, but also some real solid advice that you're going to get from four guys who've been in cybersecurity for quite a while now and have started at the same spot, but kind of went on tangents. We almost like spiraled out into different directions from there. So also, on a lighter note, my mother retired recently, and she's been Googling things. Nice. She started Googling her children's name. She found this podcast. And so, Mum, I'm really sorry about all the swearing on this episode.
Sorry, Josh's mum.
I am Mama Davis.
Sorry for swearing, Mrs. Davis.
Sorry for cussing.
Yeah.
Sorry for Josh swearing.
But I don't think I did now because I know that she's on here. Not that I did before, Mum. Anyway.
Is she going to be a regular listener then?
Oh, she's. I'm going to get her to download it now. Now that helps our metrics.
Karen's a guest.
Get her on as a guest. That could be quite fun. That could be lots of fun. She has an interesting grasp of cybersecurity. She's not the most technological, but she is very sensible. We'll give it a go. Hey, old chat saying hello to my mother as well. So, Mum, there's loads of people saying hello to you right now, gentlemen. I think this has been quite a good round episode. I do have more stuff on the CloudSorcerer group, but to be honest, I think we covered off the kind of core bits, and it led to some really great conversations, which is why I come equipped with topics for this, so we can go in any which direction.
We do have a final question in the chat.
Great.
Yeah. So Nia has asked, can projects and home labs bridge up the gap for entry-level jobs if not doing an IT support role? EJ, do you want to take on?
Yeah, I think they definitely can. I think it'll just take a little bit longer because when you're looking for a role and you're going to apply for those jobs, they're going to ask what previous experience you've had. And if you've got that technical experience from an IT role, there is a more likelihood that they might pick you. It depends on the recruiter and the hiring company. But at the end of the day, those skills can still be learned outside of doing IT support jobs. It's just the way that we recommend going through. It's personally where I came from. I did an IT support role, but it's not impossible not to go into cybersecurity without it. But I think home labs and certain certifications, depends on which ones, can definitely help you to bridge that to get you into cybersecurity without going into IT.
Yeah,
I think it's good to go on, Joe. Go on.
I was going to say, and just to add to that, if as a hiring manager, if I got two candidates, one that is in IT support, hasn't really done anything regarding cybersecurity and is looking to move over, and another candidate that shows me a massive portfolio of all of the cybersecurity relevant projects they've been working on. They've been setting up SIEMs, they've been creating use cases, they've been triaging incidents, they've been working ticketing systems, they've been researching threat actors and writing up reports and talking on LinkedIn and talking about the different threat actors and what they're doing, all these sorts of things. I know which candidate I prefer to go for.
Yeah, I think that really
focus on the projects that showcase your skills in that particular area for the role that you're specifically trying to go for, and that's what we help out with in the gold tier mentorship in school. Is kind of away all that noise and focusing on the things that you need to focus on in the short term. Yeah, there might be some knowledge gaps that you need to fill after the fact, but that's part and parcel of the game. I don't see a problem in focusing on certain skills and practical knowledge, and then filling those gaps afterwards.
Robbie, I don't want to talk about this for too long because we've definitely talked about this previously in the podcast. But what about does a personal project versus an IT support job role show that you have the ability to work with others, that you can fit in a working environment?
How does it show if you're working on a project?
Yeah, where do you get those skills from? And is that even important?
I see what you mean.
Well, if you're working with everybody in our free community or our gold tier, then you are interacting with people, you're asking questions, you're jumping on calls, you're figuring out problems together as a team, and you're asking the right questions. So head on over to the gold tier, which is www.school.com/secops.
That was not the answer I was expecting, but Robbie creates layups for himself out of nowhere. What a player. What a guy.
Just to hit on that one as well, maybe something we need to push more in the communities in terms of collaborative projects to help with that. But I have already seen people mentioning the project they're working on, someone responding saying, "Well, that's really interesting. I'd love to help you out," and then showing the outcome of that collaborative project. So people are doing that in the free community already, which is amazing. So yeah, as to Robbie saying, there's definitely things out there, including our communities, that you can do that sort of stuff in.
Yeah, evidence portfolio gathering is one of the most important things that you can do. So look at the role that you're trying to go for, break down the roles and responsibilities that exist in that role, and then try and figure out some projects that you need to engage in and build. And get cracking. Reach out to people, reach out to us in the free community, join the gold community if you do want to join it. But either way, just create a structure for yourself and practice it every single day until you get it right, until your portfolio is full enough to the point where you're like, right, yeah, I've got XYZ. I can showcase all of this in an interview setting. I can share my screen, or I can talk about it at length. And I feel that I'm ready for this role. And you're never really ready. There's always going to be a jump in anything that you do, but you just need to get to a point where you think that jump isn't too small.
And thinking about the interview stage as well, interviewers are always going to give you some sort of test or technical test. If you can absolutely smash that technical test, going into details about, networking topics and OSI layers and threat actors and those sorts of things, if you're answering, and they're going to score these questions and take note of them, if you're answering these questions better than some of the IT support people, that is going to massively go in your favor as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are many routes to security. Many routes. And chat, great point as well, that GitHub is a great way to show collaboration as well, because you can actually show on the project, right, individual contributors and collaborators and comments and stuff. So, and we know how powerful pulling up your GitHub and cycling through, even on your phone, can be in a job interview. That would certainly impress me. But gentlemen, chat, thank you very much for joining us for another episode of CyberSpace. As always, the conversation has been really stimulating. I've learned stuff. I know AJ's learned stuff, and I'm pretty sure Robbie and Vaughan have too. Eh?
Yeah, man, this has been cool. Enjoyed.
Well, there's not much else to say. We might stick around for a couple more minutes to chat with everybody. But as far as the listeners back home are concerned, this is the end of the podcast. This has been CyberSpace. We've been joined with the Empirical trainers, Josh, Robbie, AJ, and Vaughan, and Rob.
I think that might be it.
It's a wrap.
CyberSpace podcast.
Empirical trainer. You guys are you know what I mean? So like Empirical trainer. That's a wrap.
CyberSpace podcast.